be something that's lost. So let's think. Let's say, maybe you don't know somebody that's like this, but let's imagine we know somebody who has, quickly, we know somebody who has a pretty big boat. Not a ship, just a boat. And they go out on Saturday to have some fun out on the big Lake Michigan. Okay? And as they go out there, something happens and their engine stops. And then something else happens and their radio stops. And they're so far away from cell towers that their phone doesn't work, and that even if it did have it, their phone can't talk to satellites. That person and everybody on their boat are totally lost, right? No one can tell where they are. We just know that they left, right? And they're out on Lake Michigan. What could happen to them out there? A storm could come up. The waves could capsize. Lightning could strike. Lots of things could happen. They're in danger, aren't they? They can't call anybody. They can't do anything with the radio and the CB radio. It's all dead. Their engine won't work. They're stuck. They're floating along, or they're rocking along, or they're going with the waves. Somebody might fall off. They're lost. So what happens? Somebody says, I haven't seen my friend for a while. I think they're lost. Something bad happen. And so what do? We send out people to go look for them. Well, we want them to find them, but first they just have to go look, right? And that is this word right here. Right? They're looking, and they're looking. Maybe they get a helicopter from the Coast Guard, and they fly up, and they're looking, and they're looking, and they're looking, and they're looking, and finally, they find them. Right? They find them. Does that mean everything's okay? Just because we know where they are? Where are they? They're still out in the middle of the water. Their engine still doesn't work. We know where they are, but they need to be saved, don't they? We need to send out we need to lower the rescue rope or whatever from the helicopter. We got to send a lifeboat out so they can get off of their boat and come to safety. And that is very much, those are the important words in our verse, aren't they? The Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. And is it something that's lost, or is it somebody that's lost? How many somebodies are lost? Everybody that lives in the world is lost. You say, well, I know where I am, but we're in trouble because we're all sinners, right? Every single one of us is a sinner, and we're in bad shape. We need somebody to find us, seek us, find us, and save us. And our verse tells us that that's what Jesus came to do, right? And when it says Son of Man, who's that talking about? The Son of Man is Jesus. The Son of Man came, say it with me, to seek and to save that which was lost. Now, today, we're going to learn about, we're going to learn about the man when Jesus actually said those words. And can you see what this says up here in this blue writing? Can anybody see that? Read it. Aubrey, go ahead and say it. Zacchaeus, that's right. Zacchaeus. How many's ever heard of Zacchaeus? All right, we've probably sung a little song about Zacchaeus, right? Zacchaeus was, you know the rest of that? It makes him sound cute and he's small. But Zacchaeus, just like everybody else in the world, he was, you see what that says?
Lost.
He was lost. He was lost. Zacchaeus was lost. And was not a cute, small man that went waddling up in front and climbed up in a tree. He was rotten. He was corrupt. The Bible says he was a chief among the publicans. Now, we don't really use that word very much, but what that meant is that he could collect taxes. He was a Jewish man, but he did business with the Jews' enemies who ruled them, and he said he paid so that he could have the power and the authority to go and tax people, to collect the taxes. But you know what? He did more than collect taxes. If the government said, take $5 from everybody, he came to this person and said, you have to pay your taxes, and you owe $10. Does she really owe $10?
No.
How much does she owe?
5.
5. But he had a Roman soldier next to him and said, you owe $10, pay your $10. So what did she have to do?
Give him 5.
Give him 10. Otherwise the soldier's going to put handcuffs on her. And then he comes to this one and says, you look like you have a nice house. You owe $20. Now how much does she owe?
$20.
The government says $5. Zacchaeus says $20. He's rotten. He's a thief, isn't he? Comes to this one and says, you owe $10. And you owe $50. What did you say? But I don't have $50. Well, then you have to sell something so that you have $50.
My phone?
Yeah, you got to sell your phone so you can pay your taxes. Whatever. It seems funny right now, but what if you really had to do that? And then, a little while later, a few months later, Zacchaeus comes by again and says, you owe $15 this time. Can you say no to the man with the soldier standing next to him?
No.
You have to do what he says, even if what he says is not true. Because isn't that an evil man?
Yeah.
He probably got to be pretty rich, didn't he? But what happened to all those people he took money from?
Yeah.
They got to be poor, didn't they? They probably had to sell a donkey or something else, or go work harder and extra. They didn't have Lamborghinis back then. Probably Zacchaeus, if he was alive today, he'd be driving a Lamborghini around. You've seen those kind of people. They do everything criminal, but they have lots of money. I think of, Zacchaeus wasn't this kind of man, but he had this kind of riches. The drug dealers, they do evil things. They take money from people who are addicted to drugs, and do they have lots of money? They do. Do the people that they sell the drugs to have lots of money? No, but they gotta have those drugs. And so the rich guy's driving around really nice, and Zacchaeus was very much like that. He was an evil, corrupt, rich man, and he was lost. He was not a good man. He would not be seen going to church, for sure. Now back then they went to what they call a synagogue. But he wouldn't go to a synagogue. He wouldn't be seen there. All the people that go to a synagogue were like scared of him, because whenever he showed up, that meant they had to give more money. But he probably thought, well, all those hypocrites there, and there were hypocrites in the synagogue, just like there's some hypocrites at church. He's like, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm corrupt, I'm rich, I steal from people because I can, and I'm not going to go to church. I'm too upright to act like I can go to church. But he was just as bad as those hypocrites. He was. He's just as bad as them. He had nothing, hardly a thing in him that would stop him from doing something bad, especially if it had to do with money. He didn't feel like he answered to God. He didn't answer to anyone else. He was as bad as the hypocrites. What did he need? He's lost, right? He's a sinner, right? What does he need? He needs somebody to save him, doesn't he? He might think I'm doing fine just the way I am, but really, he needs a Savior. So we want to remember that. And you know what? One day, I don't know, Zacchaeus got curious. He got curious. He thought, I've heard some things about this Jesus person. He doesn't seem like those, look at here. He doesn't seem like those hypocrites, the Pharisees. He doesn't seem like everyone else that I see at the synagogue who dress up nice, but I know what they do during the week. He's different. And so Zacchaeus said, I want to learn more about Jesus. He must have had something a little bit empty inside. He had his riches. He had all that. But something in his heart said, this isn't enough. I'm missing something. Maybe Jesus has it. So what did he do? He ran ahead, right? Like the story says, or like the song says. He ran ahead, and he found himself a tree. He knew Jesus was passing along that way. He found himself a tree, and he climbed up in the tree. He must have been pretty upset, pretty stirred up in his mind to go there. Everybody, well, first off, just to go around there where there would be a crowd of people. He had taken way more money from everybody that would ever see him. I mean, if you were walking down the street and you saw him, you'd be like, there's that Zacchaeus, and look, there he is. Do you like it when people point at you and start talking about you? No. And everybody would have done that about Zacchaeus, but he didn't care. He had to find out some more of what Jesus said. And everybody knew he didn't go to the synagogue. He didn't care about preachers. But here he was, running, trying to find a place where he could go and hear what the preacher had to say. Imagine his friends who also collected taxes. If he talked to them and said, I heard from Jesus the other day, what are you doing listening to a preacher? We don't need no religion or anything like that. But something in his heart said, you need to hear what he has to say. And beside that, he even climbed up in a tree. Now he's a man. If I have to, I climb up in a tree. But climbing trees is for boys who are having fun in the yard, right? Not for men who are tax collectors and important. But Zacchaeus didn't care. Something in his heart said, you need to hear what Jesus has to say. So Zacchaeus was up there, and he got in the tree, and he was thinking, it would sure be nice if I could turn in, I don't know if he had exactly this thought, but probably he was thinking it would sure be nice if I could turn into a chameleon. You know what a chameleon is? Do you know what a chameleon is? You would know, I think. They change into different colors. So he was probably thinking, if I could only look like the rest of this tree, right? And it's not possible. But he was probably thinking, I hope nobody sees me up here. I just want to hear what Jesus has to say. He's up in the tree, hoping everybody else is looking down the road. Jesus just walking along, but I'll be able to hear what he has to say. Maybe I'll get to see him do something. But the most shocking thing in the world happened. Jesus was walking along, big crowd of people. Zacchaeus had collected taxes from way more taxes than he was supposed to. And Jesus stopped right under the tree. It was like, well then, you know what Jesus did, right? What did he do? Jesus did not climb up in the tree, but he looked up in the tree like he knew he was there, didn't he? He looked up in the tree and he said, Zacchaeus, quick, come down. I'm going to your house today. It was like Jesus came looking for Zacchaeus. He did. He came to look for Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus thought he was up in the tree, but Jesus came looking for him. And you know what? Let's see if I get the right thing here. Well, so Jesus came and he saw him and he said, come down, I'm going to your house today. Zacchaeus was probably excited, but also a little bit worried. What's going on? Jesus, my house is not a good enough place for Jesus to go to. My house, I bought it with money I stole from people. I bought it with money I cheated people out of. It's the fanciest house in Jericho, but Jesus shouldn't come to my house. But Jesus said, I'm going to your house. Why did Jesus say that? Because he knew Zacchaeus was lost. Right? He knew Jesus was lost. And he went looking for him. So, Zacchaeus came down and he's walking along with Jesus. And he's thinking, you know what? He's beside thinking, he's hearing people. People are saying, who does Jesus go with? Why would Jesus go with that person? Jesus risked his reputation. Jesus is a holy man, perfect man. Why would he go and hang out with a thief? Zacchaeus was probably thinking, Jesus shouldn't have to do that. All these people are saying bad things about Jesus. I'm the one that's the bad guy. So Zacchaeus said, but Jesus wants me. He came to my house. And you know what happened? Zacchaeus realized that Jesus came for him. We have to think the same way too. We like to go through our life thinking that we're just okay, we're fine, we're pretty good. But you know what Jesus had to do in order to save us? He had to die on the cross for us, for our sin. Now, he's so holy and so righteous that his one death on the cross can pay for the sins of everybody in the world, but if he didn't die on the cross, nobody could be saved. And Jesus seeks us by letting us read the Bible, having people come to our house so that we can go with them to Sunday school. He seeks us by having Bible club available to us. He seeks us, and so Zacchaeus thought, my oh my, I need to turn from these sins. At first he was curious. Then he realized what Jesus had done for him, and he said, Jesus, I'm anybody that I've cheated, and I know who they are and how much, I'm giving them 4 times the money back. He said that in front of everybody. You better believe it. If I was standing there listening and I knew he cheated me for money, I would be coming after him later. Say, okay, so Jesus has gone out of town. Where's my 4 times how much you cheated? Right? See if he really meant what he had to say. And then he said, and beside that, half of everything I have I'm going to give to help poor people. Now that's, when somebody does something with their money, that's pretty much, I mean, for most people, that's kind of proof that they mean it, right? He was a changed person, and I'm sure that when he got with Jesus alone, he probably confessed other sins to him. Because Jesus didn't come just to find him. Christ came to save him, right? Christ came to save him. And Zacchaeus was saved that day. I just forgot. Zacchaeus is the 5th person on our list of people who met Jesus. He's this wealthy tax man, the publican. And he met Jesus. But how did he meet him? Jesus came and looked for him and saved him. And you know what? Christ came to find us too. Jesus didn't say, for the Son of Man is come to seek and to save Zacchaeus. Right? He said, the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. And who's lost? Every single one of us. And so, like Zacchaeus, when we feel that, you know, what I hear at Bible Club and what I hear at church is true. There's something missing in my life. I need Jesus. When you come to Jesus and you say, I know I'm a sinner. I've done this and this and this, and I need you to save me. Anybody who sincerely turns to Jesus and turns from their sin and asks him to save him and seeks for him to change their life, they will be received. God accepts them. Says yes, just like Jesus went to the house of a lost, rotten, corrupt rich man, Jesus will come into your life too. When you turn, his body won't go into your body, but Jesus will come into your life, and he can change your life when you realize that you need him. We know everybody needs them. And some people realize they need them, but they're too rich. They're too pious. They're too corrupt to turn to Jesus. But everybody who will turn to him and ask for his forgiveness and seek for him to come into their life and change them can and will be saved. Because Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. And he can save you too. Alright, that's our lesson for today. Who else met Jesus? Let's just get these up here. Who did we learn about last week who met Jesus? A housekeeper. Remember? Mary and Martha. Mary listened to Jesus' teaching. And then there was the army officer. Remember the army officer? He had faith. He actually never even saw Jesus. But he believed on Jesus. Then there was these working men. Who were the working men that saw Jesus? The shepherds. They saw baby Jesus, didn't they? And then who was this first young couple? They knew Jesus in a very special way, didn't they? That was Mary and Joseph. So all these people that met Jesus, what about you? Have you met Jesus? Well, not his body, but have you believed on him? And has he saved you? He will.